How's it going, everyone? Chris Trout, the Gfinity community manager here with some Gears 5 tips and tricks to improve your multiplayer gameplay. First of all, in Gears 5, you'll need to develop your weapon knowledge. Before you start playing Gears 5, you need to understand the kit that you have at your disposal. You'll always start with a rifle, Nasher shotgun, smoke grenade, and snub pistol. If you're being aggressive or running around, always have a Nasher out and ready to go. When you're playing slow and passive, pull out your Lancer. Your Lancer rifle is great for long-ranged fights and slowing down enemies, while the Nasher shotgun is fantastic for close battles. Remember to use your active reload, because upon getting a perfect reload, you will receive a damage boost for a limited time. This is a great opportunity to do a surprising amount of damage and catch opponents off guard. Next up, you're going to need to develop your own playstyle. Everyone is different and has their own playstyle, and that means you'll need to find yours to get the most out of the game. A great way to develop your own playstyle is to understand what weapons and mechanics you're best at. If you find more success with a Lancer, it's probably best to play a more passive team-based style, often covering flanks and laying down cover fire for your opponents to help push objectives and control points on the map, such as power weapons. In contrast, if you find the Nasher shotgun is your kind of vibe, be aggressive and get into the enemy's face so you can kill them and clear the way for your team. Your controller layout is important to get the most out of the game. You'll start on the default layout. If you can, I would recommend playing on tournament layout, because the main difference is that LB becomes your cover, evade and mantle button. This is great because it allows you to do things such as wall bouncing and evading enemies without having to take your thumb off the right thumbstick. You'll become a much tougher target to hit. The sensitivity you choose is an important setting and will ultimately depend on your playstyle. If you're going to play a slow and calm style, I recommend lowering your sensitivity to focus on your aim at a distance. However, if you're going to engage in more frantic and tight battles, I recommend upping your sensitivity to complement your quick turns and shotgun fights. One thing that can really improve your success in Gears 5 is developing your map awareness and reading of the game. Like in any shooter, you need to pay attention to the map and read the flow of action. Gears 5's spawn system is much more linear compared to other shooting games, which plays in your favour when assessing where the flow of enemy traffic will be. Use your TACCOM via the appropriate button, which is LB on default layout and A on tournament, to highlight your teammates and power weapon locations on the map. You should use this regularly to give you an idea of what weapons are available and where your team is to plan out your next move and your role in the game's current state. You'll also need to learn where power weapon spawns are, because this is where everyone will be heading to throughout the game, especially at the start of a round. There are also timers on weapons before they will respawn. It's important to remember that until a weapon is dropped or emptied, it will not respawn. Now, let's talk about your positioning and personal movement. One of the most important concepts to understand in Gears 5 is gap closing. By being able to manipulate the space between you and your opponent, you can quickly turn a fight on its head. When dealing with Nasher shotguns, it has the power to insta-kill an enemy. If you're in trouble and at a health disadvantage, your best option is to actually get as close as possible to increase your chances of insta-killing your opponent. As a result, when you have a health advantage, you want to keep a safe distance between you and your opponent to ensure the opposite cannot happen to you. You also want to take into account the environment and what you can do with it. Make sure you put yourself in a position where you can either slide or evade into cover. Use anything and everything at your disposal to give you an advantage and an escape route, and make the enemy's job that much more difficult. When firing your weapon, you can hard aim or hip fire. It's kind of self-explanatory that hard aiming is far more accurate than a hip fire, but it can make you extremely static and an easier target to hit. When you're close to your enemy, hip firing is much better, as you can stay mobile and quickly adjust your position. You're also able to pop shot, which is momentarily pressing the LT button, causing you to aim with your weapon briefly, and this allows you to maintain your mobility whilst increasing your accuracy. Now, I want to go through some simple game mechanics that can often be overlooked in Gears 5 or not necessarily known about. The first one is swapping weapons. It can be handy to give a power weapon over to a teammate that is much more able than yourself. Simply go up to your teammate, hold the LT button while aiming at them, and press X. It's important to remember that every player is right-handed, meaning if you approach left-hand corners, you'll be fully exposed. So bear this in mind when taking on fights. The melee is a great last-ditch mechanic that will help you take down an enemy when you're out of ammo. It will take 2 melee attacks to down an opponent at full health and a third to execute them. This is done with the B button. Marking enemies will allow you to spot them for you and your team for a short period of time. This will highlight the enemy's position on the map. This is done by holding LT, moving your crosshairs over the opponent and pressing the left stick inwards. Grenade tagging can be done by taking a grenade and meleeing any piece of cover or wall. When an enemy walks by, it will detonate and can be done with any grenade. Crouching can be done by clicking the left thumbstick, although this can only be done when you're in standing cover. It's helpful to throw off opponents during sniper battles. Executions look fancy but are usually a waste of time and can get you killed in a lot of situations. This is because you're locked into the animation and cannot move until it is finished. It's more effective to either melee your opponent or shoot them when they're down to finish the job. Now let's move on to something that's a bit more crucial and a very big part of Gears 5, and that's the cover system mechanics, your shot times and wall bouncing. Cover can be used as more than just a defensive tool. It can be used as an offensive one as well. It's also important to remember that just because you're in cover, that does not mean you're safe from your opponent. One of the best things you can do is camera peeking. When you're in cover, you can sometimes be seen by opponents as limbs and weapons may protrude around corners. By using the third-person camera to peer around cover, you can get the drop on enemies without them knowing you're there. You can also easily remove stubborn enemies from cover by grabbing them in mountable cover and pressing Y. You can also mantle over that cover and kick them out of the cover. There are many different shots and techniques that you can employ by using the cover system that will allow you to effectively attack your enemy without it causing any convenience. Some of the most basic cover shots will help you deal with pesky enemies stuck in cover. The back A, which I like to call the sweep shot, and the up A, which I like to call the charge shot, are great at doing this. There are other more advanced techniques such as the slap shot, reaction shot, lefty flip, and the slingshot that you can read about on Gfinityesports.com. There's also wall bouncing. Wall bouncing is a simple technique to learn but difficult to effectively put into practice. All Gears players should learn it as it will increase your evasiveness. It's the simple action of sliding in and out of cover quickly and often chaining them together. Once again, you can read up more about this on Gfinityesports.com. Now let's move over to sniping, character animations and predicting movements. It can often be forgotten that every player is forced to follow the same animations when performing actions. Once you've learned how these animations start to play out, you can exploit them for your own benefit. This is particularly true with sniping, which can already be a difficult thing to master, as you need to land a headshot to secure a kill. By catching enemies when they're locked into an animation, you can pick up easy kills such as picking up a weapon or peeking from cover. As your skill develops, you can put this into practice on more difficult animations such as the evade, roadie run or cover slide. So those are some of the basic tips I can give you for Gears 5 that will help you massively improve your game. If you want to hear more about these details and some of the shots that I mentioned in the video, head over to Gfinityesports.com. There'll be a link down in the description of the video and you can read up more about this and develop your skills even further. Thanks for watching and we'll see you for the next video.